Alrighty, folks, we have an emergency session with Mr. Danberg. We usually talk on Sundays, but he reached out to me late last night saying we've got to talk. He watched the daily financial news when we were talking about the M2 money supply, and he's like, Zuber, I got you. I got a chart. We need to talk about it. We need to do it tomorrow morning. And of course, he is an extremely valuable member of the channel. Everybody loves Mr. Bird. So I said, of course, we will move things around for you. So, Mr. Bird, thank you, thank you, thank you. What do you got?
You bet. This won't take long. I watched your daily financial news, and you were great at explaining why that M2 was a little different this time.
Mm.
But I want to show something that will bring it home and really clearly. So
Yeah,
let me share my.
I love
Yeah.
that. Sometimes, words don't do it justice. Sometimes we need to see a picture.
Yes, and this picture will bring it home. So we've actually covered this before. We talked about
Yep.
this a few months ago when it first happened. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to see this a lot lately. You're probably seeing it too. A lot of people are, using that as a way to say Great Depression is coming and
Yep.
a crash is coming, and all of a sudden that's starting to, make headlines again.
Welcome to my word, Mr. Dan Bird. Take
Yeah, I
everything
mean
in
that happened.
context.
That happened a few months ago when it first went down almost
Yep.
5%.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show a chart. This is my website, breakpointtrading.net. On the charts page, I have a whole bunch of charts. And by the way, anytime you see something like that in the news, I probably have a chart for it.
You probably do, yes.
And if I don't, I will create one
Yeah, you
and
will.
add it
I
on
love
here.
it.
So on the left-hand side, under the economic charts section, I have one called M2 money supply.
Look at that.
All right. And there is this money supply.
So
So
let me take a shot
well,
at kind of.
hang on. Before you do, I just want to
Okay.
repeat the narrative. The narrative is when the M2 money supply drops more than 2%, then we are headed for a major recession.
No,
That
depression.
it
Depression.
hasn't happened since the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
And my comment is, what else has not happened since the Great Depression? A 100-year pandemic has not happened since the Great Depression either.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So go ahead.
Yeah. So again, when I look at this kind of as a novice, you're a chart guy. I want to kind of step back and be a viewer for a minute. What I would orient people for is the pink line.
Yes.
And the pink line, folks, what you should be looking at there is a trend. The
Right.
M2 money supply has always been expanding. That's kind
Yes.
of, like, have you heard me say inflation's a feature, not a bug? Hello, M2 money supply. What you then see right around the beginning of 2020, see that black line say pandemic, the government freaked out and they sent stimmy checks and they sent stimmy checks and they said, don't pay your bills. And they
What did
said
the
this
market
and that.
drop money
Yeah.
from helicopters on
Yeah.
everything?
Helicopter money.
And by the way, no, everything was closed, so nobody could spend that money. So what do they do with it?
Exactly. And you sold stocks and you went to cash, 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 cash. So the M2 money supply exploded above the trend line. By some
Right.
stance, depending on when you look at this, it was upwards of 25% above trend.
20. Yeah. If you look back on the trend, that's right. Back
Yeah.
here on the
At the
trend, that's
peak.
correct.
At
Yeah.
the peak.
Right.
So, folks, the thing about trends is they continue. You can see the pink line is still going up. As of today, again, if I understand the chart right, we are still 15% above trend. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. That is correct. So as you said yesterday, it is factual that the money supply has dropped more than 2%. In fact, it dropped
Absolutely.
4.9% from peak to
Yeah.
trough. I mean, the article said 3.9, but it's actually 4.9
Yep.
from peak to trough. But yes, it's still 15%. It needs to drop another 15% just to be normal.
Yeah. Well,
Just to
here's the
be
rub. So let's talk about that. That's again factually correct on the day, but the thing about trends is they continue.
yes.
And what will likely happen is I suspect the M2 money supply will go down a little bit more, but the trend will eventually catch up. But it may not catch up till 2027.
That's right. Yeah, and that's a very salient point. So there's two ways for the money supply to come back to trend. Either it drops like a rock from where it is right now,
Mm-hmm.
or it just goes sideways, which is exactly what it's been doing for a year, over a year.
Yeah, look at that. So
It's
obvious.
it's going sideways. So if this just goes sideways, the trend will catch up and they'll meet each other. And then when it meets trend, and then if it stops 2%, then
Then
we
we
can
have a
talk
problem.
about it.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
And then the
Again,
GDP is
yeah.
down. GDP is down below. The black line is the 12-month rate of change for GDP, and you can see GDP went below zero on these two recessions down here. We're not there yet. The red line is 2.5% annual rate of change. We probably will get there, but I'm not sure we'll get below zero. Well, we could.
No,
I mean,
we could
get a recession, but I mean, none of this is cause for panic at this point.
Yeah. Do me a favor, folks. When you hear people use a single data point today and they want to create the world's scariest headline, they can be factually correct. The M2 money supply is down 4.9%. Anytime it's done over 2%, a depression has occurred. It's 5 for 5. Oh, by the way, the last one was 1920. The other four, 1800s. 1800s. I think the world's a little different than the 1800s.
Yeah, and the last, by the way, the last pandemic was 1918.
Correct.
Right?
So okay. So again, folks, do me a favor. We have messed up probably most, if not all, economic models in the last 4 years. You can't rain down $8 trillion from helicopters and not mess up the models. Why have economists been wrong the last 3 or 4 years? Because they are relying on 40 and 50 and sometimes 100-year models that don't have this M2 money supply.
They don't apply. They don't apply any longer.
They don't work.
Everything in the economy right now is trying to get back to trend, reversion to the mean. So reversion to the mean is this pink line right there. And this applies to everything in the economy. Because of the pandemic, everything is trying to get back to normal right now. And in many cases, we are already at normal. We are at normal with the interest rate, with the Fed rate hikes. We are at normal with mortgage rates. All of that is normal right now. That's what the economy is trying to get to.
Yeah. And it's going to take different things and different speeds. Something like this is going to take years to get back to trend.
Right.
Yeah. So Dan, I appreciate it. This chart is perfect. I'm so glad you have your website. Your charts are amazing. And you're absolutely right. When you find something, you create the next new chart. You're amazing. Show your website one more time.
Sure. It's breakpointtrading.net. The charts page is where all these charts are, most of them. And I do a newsletter every week. Right there is a free one, that little box. So I just wanted to come on, and because you did a great job yesterday explaining it, but I just wanted to give you a visual.
Awesome. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing this. This is exactly what an emergency Mr. Dan Bird session should be like. Thank you.
All right. You bet. Take care.